order. As a first order of business, we have, I guess, to start, we could recognize visitors. We do have our superintendent. If we'd like to recognize, hello, Dr. Manzo.
How are you?
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
And as an additional note, Alyssa Bascom will be, without objection, and we somewhat checked the rules, will be voting as an alternate for Jamie tonight.
I'm seeing a board member. Yeah.
Only one that can replace her. There's another board member.
Yes. Okay. I don't hear any objection.
No objection.
We don't have an objection.
No objection.
No objection. No objection.
Okay. Thank you, Alyssa, for joining us.
Gotcha.
First order of business is a review of December 12th, 2024 minutes. And I will note I have corrected the spelling of Michael's name, and I will resend them to Misty corrected. Any other adjustments?
I move to accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion Jennifer. Seconded by Michael. That's spelled A-E-L.
That's all right. Me and Michael are going to compete today for the first person to say second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and Amanda, would you please take us through item number 2, discuss 12 most recent questions?
Yes. So if I'm going to try to pull it up on the phone. So I don't think I saved it to my remarkable. Sorry. But the 12 most recent questions. So we sent them out to the administration, and I just want to say thank you on the record, because today was the first day back, and 9 out of the 12 Lori shot off answers to us. So I appreciate that. The first question, if you guys want, I'm just going to read through the questions and then the answers that they emailed us. So our first question was, were all the unfilled positions fully funded in the latest proposed budget? The answer to that is yes. And follow up to that question 2, if so, how much of the budget represents these vacancies? She says, as you know, the budget is based on a snapshot in time. The following data reflects status and payroll at 1/2/25, which may not include recent hires. We will have updated data for the board meeting on Monday. And I also identified the support services, which is speech psychologists and BCBA positions that we have to contract out if we aren't able to fill the position. This results in a budget transfer from salaries and benefits to contracted services. And then there's that table there, which I don't know if we want to discuss that now. If we want to bring up questions or discussion now, or do we want to go on to question 3?
Go on, yeah, that's discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the total cost for the COLAs for administration? Was 96,510.41. The SRO is in the budget because it was a correction, because it was inadvertently omitted from the first round, and it says the service is contracted through Langdon and the state police. Question 5 was in relation to the HR assistant, what are the job duties and how is this position being funded? It says the job description for the employment and benefits specialist is attached. In addition to these duties, this position will have increased responsibilities for maintaining our professional development and performance management systems. In 2025, the community liaison position, which was funded 50/50 grant/general fund, was eliminated this year, and the general funds were redirected to this new position. The difference was covered by savings from moving from open market insurance service, to Primex. Question 6, what is the total cost of the unfilled painter position in maintenance? It's 82,378.64, which includes 2-person health and an HRS. Question 7, for line item 10.2310.545, staff and public relations board, the total is 30,000. What's it used for? It's broken down there by admin retreat / working meetings, the board retreat, district events, the festival, retirement gifts and awards, staff appreciation, flowers for babies, bereavement and illnesses, and the beginning and end of year events. And the question 8 was, can we get the comparables actual to budget? And she says, please see attached. This is November data, as I haven't had the opportunity to review December. And then lastly, line item 10.2600.531.003 is voice comm facilities. This has been zeroed out. Where is the corresponding increase? Where did this and all the other voice comm lines move to? And Lori says, this is the information I see in my budget for this specific amount. There is a reduction from last year as we change providers and have savings. There is a PDF in the Drive Budget Committee folder that is titled FY26 Budget Detail Object Codes 300 through 900. And you can use Control F in the document and search by account code and see the details for each voice comm 531 account. And so, yes, so this talks about cell phone reimbursement, First Light, don't know what that is, R&R communications, there's 2 different lines for that, and SR bags. So, and then she wasn't able to get to 10, 11, or 12. Okay. So I think that brings us back to the first line 1, 2, and 3, as we discussed in our last meeting. You know, what does the bottom line of the budget look like? And then, you know, based on the answers to these questions, it was going to really give us information so that we could present our bottom number. So that's where we're at, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Well, I'm a little bit confused. The biggest thing for me is the vacancies.
Yep.
Right? I was surprised because Lori mentioned at one of the hearings that they had applied vacancy management. Obviously, that did not happen. Right? So I think that's where we're going to have to start looking carefully with this surplus that we keep carrying over from year to year. This majority comes from vacancies. And I don't think we can go back in another year with over a $1 million unspent or surplus back to the taxpayer a third year. So I think we really need to look at that and say, you know, what's realistic? Is it really realistic to expect that we're going to have a superintendent on July 1? Is that really realistic?
It is.
It is?
Yep.
Okay. So that's, we'll leave that one alone. But how many teachers are we going to be able to hire by June 1st? Of July 1st? I also question this painter that's been open for 2 years. I think that my recommendation is to pull that right out. The $82,000, I'm sure we could find a contractor to do some of the painting work for that kind of money.
We had also talked about that on Saturday, or our Saturday meeting.
Right, well,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
assuming now that's back, it's still in the budget, so.
On top, well, in addition to what Steve was asking, I believe the vacancy count was down to 48 for total full-time employees. Is that still the case? 48 people? There are 48 vacancies?
I don't believe so, but I can get that information for you.
Well, it was 53 in November. And then when we saw the next version just before our Saturday meeting, it was, I believe, down to 48. So what I'm interested in is knowing how many and what it might be the average salary, because when we, over the years, we tried to cut expenses and we are told time and time again, that's not where the real money is. It's all in salaries. And we've had occasion, not just for surpluses, but for longstanding vacancies year after year after year after year. And there's no reasonable
It's 45 open positions listed on their website.
45.
So it's listed.
So I would say, and if we go back to previous years, is it realistic to think only 15 would be filled? And
Yeah,
that
that's the
way, what we can do, and we wouldn't be specifically asking for position eliminations, specific positions, but there will be an opportunity after those are filled, 15, say, okay, instead of 45. That we would be able to have a special meeting, or there are a lot of reserve funds, one of which we'll talk about later, that can compensate if we find the perfect fit suddenly before the next budget season to re-increase the budgets incrementally as we go. So that's my thought on this particular topic.
Again, I think if you reduce it down, if you get a hot candidate, you hire, right? We deal with the variance in whatever way we gotta deal with the variance. You're not gonna walk away from a good hire.
Correct.
I would not recommend that whatsoever. As a business person, I'm telling you, don't do it, please. Right, but from here, I don't think there's a penalty to take $300,000 out of the $2 million. I just don't see it as hurting anybody.
Can I respond to that? So I just want to make sure that when we're talking about 45 open positions, when you look at the list, many of them are middle school coaches or other smaller,
I agree,
very, very
right,
small amounts that aren't going to affect the budget. So it's not like there's 45 positions at $100,000 each.
that's correct.
So we need to be very, very mindful when we're talking about
Mhm.
just cutting that part out of the budget, that some of these aren't really affecting the bottom line by a lot.
Right, but it's a $2 million of open positions. Based on Lori's, or whoever created this document for us, it's 2,070,767. So that's a lot. So like I said, it's the same thing. I think we're all agreeing that we need another student service coordinator. That would leave 2 open positions. We're trying to trouble finding one. Are we gonna get a second one? Are we gonna hire 2 by July 1st? I think that you gotta accept that's probably not gonna happen on July 1st. So even if we say, take 50% out of the 100,000 that it's gonna cost, that's 50,000 out of the budget. And I don't think it's gonna hurt.
I agree.
Yeah, and the painter is 82,000. We pull that out completely. Now you're looking at 130,000 without even anything. So I think a couple 100,000 out of that 2 million is not gonna hurt anybody. And it'll cut the surplus down, is what.
Right.
I don't think it would be good to have another 1 billion plus surplus a third year in a row. That's a pretty big part for voters to swallow.
Especially when we spend it anyway. Right, that doesn't, some of it, we don't return that to the taxpayers.
Well,
We find other things to move it to. and
we have
spend it.
conversations about that. And
I understand.
but the majority of it goes back, like there is nothing left at the end that sits in an account waiting to be spent in the future years or anything like that. It goes back. It's not.
That's only a recent activity that we've been doing that. In the past, they used to spend it, they used to put it in capital. I'm not a capital reserve person,
That does get voted on.
I know, but that's the board's decision and you guys can do what you want, but putting it into the capital reserve is not something we should be doing either. What's left over should go back to the people. That's how it should happen. We should play it straight all the time, and we don't. You know, you still have the power of the board to do what you want, and you did, but we're not getting back all of it from this last year, so.
What I understand though, Chris, is that on June 30th, it's not surplus. It's unspent money.
Right.
Which the board has complete authority to move back and forth and do what they want. On July 1st, it's surplus.
Right.
And according to the articles of agreement, it's supposed to be returned to the voters. Some time ago, years past, it's been said that by establishing those capital reserves, that's giving it back to the voters in some way. Right, because
So
that's where.
well, that's not how I understand it at all. Those capital reserves are simply, it's an option that the voters can vote on to put in there or not. Like,
Right, but it doesn't say in the voting that if this vote is defeated, the money will go back to the taxpayers.
so it could be a change to the wording, and we
It's-
can address
it's-
that next
It's been
week.
fuzzy.
I do not agree with the wording that says it's a tax neutral article when it gets spent from a capital reserve or anything of the sort.
Yeah, right.
So, but that's all
Like I
is the
said, the
legal
articles
wording.
of agreement are very clear. It says any surplus money is to be returned.
Yeah,
That's
that's
how it gets back to the voters is a question. Capital, or whether it back to.
Just find something to go with that.
Well, when you
But it
know,
never
when
goes
they
to-
take money
it-
back.
It does not go to capital reserve accounts unless the,
Yeah,
that's what they wanted to
yeah.
do. It's not that the school board decides, oh, we're gonna take the $1 million and put it in capital reserve. You
The
can't do
warrant
that.
doesn't give them the option.
No,
That's the problem. Doesn't give the voter the option.
And
But it's been like that for years. It's not a new thing. So,
Jennifer has a question.
the exception to what you described, Alyssa, I think, is what came up at the board meeting last time about this self-insured health care fund for over $700,000 that sat there for years, hasn't been touched, is making zero money. I don't know if it's just, if there's some way to accelerate their vote to return that. And, because that's a lot of money. So, and it's not really being, the trustees aren't really being,
it's not actively managed, I think.
right, yes,
Okay.
so.
it's still held by trustees
We
of
lost
Charlestown.
It is.
So as an act, I'll just put this out as a suggestion to the board. They should be looking to put that money in in the pool deposit insurance program.
Well, in case of a lawsuit? or
No, it's,
something,
it's,
or-
it's a different way of, like, Walpole has taken all of their a lot of money away from and just invested it in this, it's a state sanctioned pool, you don't lose money, but it gives you a much better rate of return.
Okay.
But if it's not gonna be used because we're not self-insured
Well,
anymore.
then we should figure out how to get it back to use.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
And we have had that conversation and it's a continuing conversation.
But can it be accelerated?
That is the plan.
Yeah, you just have to modify the terms of how it got there. That's all.
Because that's money that in, say, we think that we're over, cutting, the salary pool.
I think,
Because of the vacancies and everything, that's a lot of money that, if we can figure out how to get it to be liquid, and then perhaps it can be used to fill holes that are urgent or emergencies or something. Before the next budget cycle, we might be able to hire the people you need, rather than keep these vacancies open.
or move it to the special ed fund so that we get zonked as a special ed. That's it, we have the place to go get money for it.
Probably.
But even that one is fairly well funded at the moment.
Yeah, but it goes quick
Yeah.
with special ed.
Yeah, well, it could, for sure.
But anyway, some for next year's budget, we will get that.
Yes, the state as well.
What the reserve, yeah, what the reserves, what we can,
Push that.
how we can use it different ways, maybe.
So suggesting a certain amount.
I think 300,000 out of the vacancy is not unrealistic.
So that's 15%.
So I can easily identify 130,000 without even blinking an eye.
Steve, a point of order. Um, Without jumping ahead to agenda item 3, discussion on finalizing budget numbers, are we done with number 2? I just want to stay on agenda. Does anybody have any other questions for the questions and answers provided by the administration?
I think item 12 on our list there, crosswalk, which have been zeroed out, I think we're answering. But I think that's something that Jamie was hot for at the meeting.
Yep. So to still expect the other 3 questions to be answered, still looking for those. I'm just trying to be thorough with our agenda, so I apologize for interrupting.
Fine, Dave.
Michael or Chris, are you all set on the questions at first agenda item, second agenda item?
Yeah, for now.
I'm set. Has there been any revised budget or a new one, or are we still?
No, not since we last met. We're still on version 2. You walked in, we were discussing the email from, earlier today from Lori. From Gabe to us. More.
Okay. Mhm.
Seeing no further discussion on the questions, we can move on from agenda item 2 and take up number 3, discussion on finalizing a budget number. Understanding we don't have to come out of this meeting with a number tonight, especially not without one of our, without Jamie or Jerry as part of the discussion. But let's have it. Steve, where I cut you off, you want to start there?
Well, again, I think vacancy management, 300,000. I didn't know what the outcome with the justifications were. We had recommended only one, I think, of the list. I think it's going to go to the school board on that following Monday. I don't know the result of that discussion.
The whole conversation was different. We did not decide to add anything to the budget for that vehicle.
For the whole list that we took out the athletic trainer and just the big ones, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
took out everything except for
Right.
student
Except for the
services
student
coordinator.
service person.
122, 95928.
Right.
Yeah, we haven't taken up whether we will take out any costs like for the local program. If we haven't changed the budget in regards to your recommendation, then
Okay, so all those other positions are in there too?
anything that we had talked about adding that we approved, which was the Andros position, the library position in Charlestown, and the local position was in version 2, and that hasn't, we haven't gotten.
The dance thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have a version 2.1 or anything like that that takes out your recommendation.
So in this budget that we're looking at right now, has all those positions in it?
Yes.
Okay, so that means that we should take out 500,000.
Right.
For vacancy management, because at least 2 of those positions, one of them, the board did not approve. Right, the CTE director was voting
Correct.
no, so that comes off the table.
Yeah.
That was about 100.
Well, that wasn't, yeah, so it never got added to version 2.
So that's not in version,
Right.
that's the real question, what's in version 2?
So only the ones we approved, which were those 3.
Those 3 things,
Sandra,
okay,
the 122, 95928, the student services coordinator, the Walpole passes school board, that's 3,500.
And the library assistant were 16.
which 60,000.
So the truck came out,
It never went in.
never went in, it's not in version 2.
Correct.
Okay,
So, but here's my question. If you voted yes and we voted no, doesn't that kill it? It doesn't go in the budget.
they voted no.
You can have a different total than we have.
Right.
Got it.
So what you present could be different, but we're gonna have that discussion, on Monday when we presented with version 2.0, because we haven't seen, the school board has not seen version 2.0 yet. So the presentation will come to us, we'll have our discussions, you're all welcome to come Monday, and then we're gonna meet jointly on Wednesday.
We both meet on the 8th.
Right,
Okay.
And the default budget hasn't been presented to anybody yet.
correct. My understanding is that is gonna be on Monday as well.
Okay.
So then, to your point, Steve, from this version 2, we want to cut out 19.5 from this list. So you want to start with $20,000 already.
Again, we don't know of that list, what's in version 2.
No,
Well, we
Alyssa just
do.
said that it was only Zandra's, the 16 and the 3.5 that got
So
put.
then we don't want to cut anything. I would cut the 20,000 for the, to
Just,
me, it's not that big of a deal, right?
okay.
At least that's my 2 cents, but I do feel that we'll take it some other number. Because I do feel that the budget's not that accurate, that we have to worry about $3,500 in the Walpole budget. Right? Yeah, today, there is no school budgets today, so it's easy to move $3,500 from the high school to the Walpole's dance program if we wanted to. I'm sure there's $3,500 worth of something in the budget somewhere else to move over. So,
I would object to that, Steve, just on the method principle. I don't think that would work.
Yeah, I think the idea is that Walpole should be able to find it within Walpole's K-8 budget.
no, that's fine
That's
too.
what we
Yeah, I
said,
agree with
yeah.
that too. And I've said that to Justin, that
Exactly.
I don't believe you're that accurate in your budgeting. That you could, $3,500 is nothing out of a couple $1 million or $1 million budget, it's nothing.
Especially in light of the surpluses that we.
Right,
So when we're talking about total budget right now, budget total is $35,086,900. But the total budget is $37,145,634.
You're looking at version 2?
I believe so.
I gotta check. I'm confused. Which one? See that on, it's different. Version 1, which version? This is the one we worked on at, fire station.
So that has to be version 2.
So that number,
So what is it then?
right there, total budget number,
30.
37,322,583. Does everybody have that as the total budget for the district?
Two different ones.
Yeah. So this is what they gave us. Remember, we talked about how this has the capital, what we spent from the capital reserve funds that got voted.
Okay, yeah.
This one doesn't. This one does, and this one doesn't. So what we did was to estimate what needed to come off of this, so we saw apples to apples. So last year we spent 37,077,000 now, counting what came out of capital reserve. So this is all that was.
So this is the number,
This is 37.
37, 3, 2. Okay, so this is version 2. Okay. This
You
is
want a copy of this?
Yeah, please. Sorry.
I want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Oh, wait, I got it right here, Alyssa. Sorry. This is version 2.
35,260.
Yes, right. Or the including, right? Whichever one you choose.
Yeah, 35,263 is the operational budget.
Operational budget.
For capital
Sure.
projects.
35,263,849.
Right. version 2.
The other thing is the non-union staff agreement, is that in the what's version 2?
The non-union staff agreement,
Whatever it's currently being negotiated,
no.
that's not in there. We'll have that Monday?
Well, we know. Yes. Those warrant articles will be.
So, but we will know the dollar amounts of that. Unlikely
should.
that's gonna get voted down, right? So.
Well, there's hoping that it's passed.
Well, again, it's unlikely that I've been here 22 years and I have never seen one of the agreements get voted down. So that's gotta get added to the 35 million, 262, whatever that increase is.
Meeting on Wednesday with the school board, next Wednesday, well, today's Thursday, so, sorry. First day back to school, it's a Thursday, this is messing with my mind. We're gonna walk out of that meeting with what? What does everybody see us coming out of that meeting? We're gonna come out with a final number on that Wednesday. So going into Wednesday's meeting, I think it would be helpful for us in this meeting to kind of test, or not test, but figure out where we all are. Where are we happy with? What are we, we don't have to come out with a certain number, but, to prep us so that Wednesday's meeting is that much more productive and efficient. Corrected numbers for version 2, the bottom line for the operating budget is $35,263,849. And the total budget is $37,322,583.
Man,
Yes, well, yes, go ahead.
Gabe, remember? And that number does not include the staff negotiation, right?
That's what we discussed.
Okay.
What is the difference between those two numbers? Not mathematically, but.
I wasn't gonna do that.
Although you should have.
I was gonna say, I went to lawyer's college, I don't do math. That is
I'm sorry, I missed the.
what's the difference between the 35 million and the 37 million?
Yeah, I know that part. I said not mathematically.
The 37 million includes grant expenditures, things that we know we will have to spend, but we'll have an offset.
Oh,
Where were the ESSER funds presented in the prior budgets? Were those, they must have been below a line somewhere. And I know they're gone now, and that's one of the things the state's struggling with. So when we look at the prior budgets or the previous, what was approved and versus what was spent, the ESSER funds were included
The ESSER funds
somewhere in there.
were not included in the general budget.
No,
They would have been
in the
included in
grant,
those, all other funds, right?
so they would
So-
be part of that. Whatever the increase was from the regular budget, the operational budget and
Between that and the total budget.
yeah.
But we, as you can see, over the 4 years that they indicate there, they just put in a dollar amount because there's an offset to them. So I don't know or I don't have a report that says these are the actual dollar amounts we spend from ESSER funds.
But we know there's no money there anymore.
Correct.
So it's not carried over or anything.
So anything that was grant funded position wise, those were the discussions we had last year about whether we wanted to carry them forward, if they were cost effective for the district, that kind of thing. And there were some cuts of positions that didn't continue forward. Yeah,
What's the impact of the state defunding some of the special education grants? Is that included in the budget?
I don't think we're going to see the ramifications of that until the end of the year.
Next budget.
Yeah, so I know last year we had an increase in what they spent for special ed cat aid.
Yeah.
Like, here's a $300,000 windfall, so to speak.
Yeah,
So I don't know, I was shocked when it came up that they were spending less because they had increased it the year prior, but we don't know what that's going to be
Yeah.
yet.
We know it's
That's good.
definitely a short.
That this legislative
session.
But we know it's also related to one of the unfunded mandates, which was that now instead of having students being responsible for students through their 21st year, now it's through their 22nd. So it's a whole nother year. If you've got students who are out of district and they're there for a whole nother year, districts are on the hook for those things. So there is less money to go around when you have a bigger pool to spread it.
But I think that they had not budgeted for the ESSER funds going away either, so they're short by many millions. But I know, Sandra felt comfortable that the reserve they have, although we have to go into default to use that money, that it's well over 300,000.
We would have to default the entire budget for.
Yes,
If we take out that 300,000 for vacancy management, it drops the total to 34,963,849. Yes,
My number's much higher than 300.
what's your number?
I just.
I'm looking at 575. I'm looking at each little school, particularly Fall Mountain, but, Charlestown Middle School can cut some of their, furniture budget. You know, there's no doubt, I went through it pretty line item by line item. Charlestown Primary School can do the same thing. So for my school, two schools at least, I say mine, the area I live. I didn't check Walpole's and Violet's. But Fall Mountain is it's a beast into its own, and I think it is what it is with the curriculum they have. It's a little unwieldy, and it's not up to us to deal with some of those issues. But there's certainly, I think, areas that can be cut or at least reduced. You know, feed to animals, things like that. And there's all sorts of things, and I'm gonna go back to that as long as I live.
I understand.
So
So you think out of vacancy management?
I would say $500,000 out of vacancy.
Okay, and then another 100,000.
Easy, across the board. And I just say things that certain things, a classroom needs a whole brand new set of tables and we did ask for justification, and I appreciate, and which I hope all the schools go to the same tables, and it should be mandated that they provide this information, at least for the primary school and middle school, and it be very detail oriented, down to the number 2 pencils they wrote in at $6. That was good. I need that detail. That's the person I am. I have to have it. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. If you don't provide me that, how can I tell you that line item's high or not? I can't do my job. So that level of detail is good, and it should be across the district. Fall Mountain in particular should be itemized to the best that it can.
For the high school, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, because there are certain things we all know, and again, I'll just use my example, whether it's veterinary bills, we don't know, we're just throwing a number, right? You can't, that's a pie in the sky. It's a consumable. We think, unless they use it, and then if they don't use it, then they can use it on something else. And I kind of don't like that. So, yes,
I
I'm
would
sorry.
leave it.
Why am I saying yes? So I'm not finished. No, no, that's up for them to choose if you speak. So I'm still at the table, ma'am, for a
Yes.
minute.
Oh.
For 30 seconds. So I just, yeah.
Yes, no.
Yeah, I just think, I see lots of room, and I'll just choose one that really kind of shows something to me, and I know that it's way in the weeds. Somebody wants an $18 mechanical pencil. It's in there. It was given to us. I'm sorry. I come from the engineering world. The boss would never buy me an $18 mechanical pencil. Never. That would be something I'd really want myself. Plenty of number twos are provided. Plenty of other Pentels. You get a pack of these for $8.90. So there's things like that that I just go, and I'm not, it's $18, right? But that's what everybody says. It's just $18. But that just goes to, we can do this, we can do that. And it's just these little increments. And I'd just rather not have that type of stuff in there. And I also think some schools give pizza parties, some principals want it, they have it in their budget. Other principals don't. It should be carte blanche across the board. No or yes. Some teachers, some schools are buying sweatshirts for their entire staff at $1,800. Other schools aren't. So why is that stuff in there? How come it's not the same throughout the district?
I think that what you're hitting on is that sense of community and the small schools versus the standardization of the whole. And so I hear what you're saying,
Right.
but that's.
And for us to do our jobs, we should know and expect, but when you see this stuff, some people, I don't want to call it, are putting it in, other people aren't. They're trying to be frugal with the taxpayers' dollar. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be giving some of our teachers a coffee and a donut. I didn't say that, but 5 times a year versus 2 times a year, you see different scenarios, and it's a gradual, it's a buildup to me, and I think that hopefully the board, we can impress upon them that, and I think we're moving there, that we can standardize these things, these costs. So it's easy for us to digest. It's easy for the taxpayer who wants to look at this and goes, OMG. And they, there's a lot to it. And appearances are one thing, and we all know that. Appearances. So, and anyway, I did see some furniture in here, justifications. To me, how come we just don't ask the maintenance man to fix the squeak? All right, you got a couple of squeaky chairs, but they want 20 brand new chairs for $1,800. And then another classroom, and I'm like, oh, well, somewhere in here we have to take their word for it. But did they ask the maintenance? I just, you know what I mean? And those types of things. So I think we can reduce each school's a little bit. They can weather the pain that we're all weathering, paying taxes. They can weather it. Sometimes less is better. You get quality if you have less to work with. I'm sorry that it's more of an opinion, but so anyway, sorry. Yes.
Just so you know, if we take, so your $600,000 drops it to 663,849. Jennifer, you were gonna say something.
Yes, keeping in mind that supplies aren't the largest part of the expense for this type of budget, it did strike me as potentially available for economies of scale if people were able to use the same vendors, and we have, a master catalog that they could all order from instead of Amazon versus Staples versus the delivery charges and so on. I know we don't have a centralized procurement person to do that. But if the school board could agree on, some supplier that we may be able to negotiate with, for delivery and for, volume discounts or something that would address at least to some part. First of all, what's available, because you order from here or not, and I know there are arts and music people that wouldn't be necessarily included, but there would be an opportunity to say, okay, every school needs pencils. You know, how many do you need? And just buy a lot of them for everybody, whatever they put in for justification and so on. And, be able to get those in and store them and distribute them as required. So that's just a thought that came to me while I was reviewing all the supply lists and justification and what Chris was saying. With all of the tables.
When we talk about balancing the interests of the collaborative, I think this is also kind of what we're talking about. We talk about what's best for the students and then what the interests and the needs of the taxpayer as well. But also standardization, which makes sense, but also balancing the reason that balancing the interest of the little schools and having those town you know, buildings in communities. And I think that when we talk about, and this is sort of a budget committee issue, but it's a grander issue as well. But when we talk about why we have 11 buildings still, because we're still putting the bill for North Charlestown, we have that's kind of what it speaks to, right? Like that's why we have 11 buildings. So are we getting to, and this is, I don't expect anybody to answer this question, but are we getting to the point in the pendulum where it needs to kind of swing back the other way, where, you know, tax bills went out and they all went up. So there's rationale and everything behind that, but it's hard. And like we've said a million times, this is a thankless position, school board's a thankless position. Probably administration feels that their job is thankless as well, but we're not going to make anyone happy. And I just want to, you can't make everyone happy. So we need to continue doing what we're doing, but I just want to acknowledge that it's not easy and it's kind of trying to walk that line in the middle. So yes, McBeth.
I would definitely agree. Serving as superintendent some time ago and serving now, and listening to some of your concerns, unfortunately, or fortunately, we did change some things, but unfortunately, time goes by and things aren't changed. But what I would agree with is that the numbers of students has been dropping. And while there isn't always economy of scales, there is I think a need, and I've talked with the board and with the chair about this, as well as the principals, that we will be going out to talk to all of the select boards, hopefully soon, as well as later in the spring, because we need to look at North Charlestown. And so I've already been working with the principal, Justin Casserino, to.
I think we're good. It's not North Charlestown, it's North Walpole.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I meant North Walpole.
Where you were, we meant what you knew.
All right, North Walpole is an example.
I think people in Walpole are waiting for this
Right.
discussion.
And so we've already been having Justin and I have been having conversations about how we can develop different options to start conversations about what would Walpole not us going and saying, we want to close it and this is what we want to do. That's not the perspective we need to come from. It's your community. And we know, one of my favorite sayings is, schools are our community, community are our schools. They go hand in hand. I've worked many places. This is one of the best examples of what happens in school in small towns where they have a school. So, and it will be the same thing. We've noticed, of course, that Langdon's budgets have gone up. The number of students has dropped. So we need to have a conversation. Now, when I was here some years ago, we did that. We went to Langdon as a board and we said, we've seen rising costs. What would you like to do? And at the time, it was loud and clear. We want our school. But there's a time when we have to kind of give that 30,000-foot view to say it's time to go back, talk to each of the towns and see what they want to do. We have to offer those things. It doesn't mean that a town would decide suddenly they don't want their school and they want to send them someplace else. That's not what we're saying. We're saying, work with us and let's look at all the possible options. And then when we have those all lined out with cost, what do you want to do? So that's coming.
I think, speaking for Walpole, I mean, people are waiting for it.
Yeah.
I've had a conversation just on Monday.
Yeah.
Right to the same effect with somebody. When are we gonna have this discussion about closing the school? We should have
Yep.
closed it years ago.
Yeah, it's coming.
But it's tough when, you know, this year was tough. The taxes were probably.
Sure.
So
What?
I don't know what
Who's next?
topics I'm
Where do you
allowed,
wanna, where do you wanna go?
I don't know what topics I'm allowed to broach.
I'll let you know.
Class of 1985, $12 million the school budget, district budget was. We had over 1,200 kids. 36 million, what's our population now? District one?
And did you adjust that number for inflation?
Okay. No.
Thank you.
Things have changed dramatically, but one thing that did come to my attention while reviewing these budgets, finally, I had the time over the holiday was, this may be contentious, but I'm just gonna broach it, is the increases in principals' salaries. Now, it's come to my attention that they're locked in, but when the average salary of a principal in the state of New Hampshire is $107,000. And we possibly could be paying $124 for a primary school principal or a middle school principal. In a tax burdened community, I have to wonder. You know, we all come from different environments and all different businesses. And sometimes even sport teams say, we can't pay it. Sorry, but that's the door. It is what it is. And sometimes I know in this world, hey, we can't get enough teachers. We can't get enough staff people to help teachers, principals. I know it's a tough business. But that is a huge pill for me to swallow when I'm looking at Dover and Portsmouth, two of the richest communities in our state, paying $112 for a principal. So I'm not sure how that happens because I'm just on the budget committee, but I noticed it. And I just,
What's your question?
yes, it's one of these. And then I don't have a lot to say at the end, other than I know that this is where we are. And especially when it comes to the admin raises this year, and everybody's been talking to me about COLA. We all come, again, business worlds, heck, At the end, as a salary employee, I got the turkey. The underlings got the raise. That's how it worked. That's what's my job. It's still my job today to some degree. So, that would be the other thing is when we get these budgets and I see an automatic 4%, I mean, I just wish I could just give myself a 4% raise every year.
So
You
is
know?
your question whether or not the school board has reviewed the 4% COLA or whatever it is?
I'm just wondering if they have, good. I still think that that's a reduction area I haven't gotten to that we say admin, COLA is 2.5. I look at that more as retirement seniors, kind of cost of living. They need a little bit more in their social security. But if you're making 6 figures in the school district, it's a pretty good living. If you get 1%, 1.5%, 2%, that's pretty fair, at least from the business engineering world. And I work for a global company. You can't get much. That's why I think they were so rich. But maybe things have changed. Things have changed, and I don't want to say it's 9 months. And I know principals work all year round. But they have flip-flops and shorts and t-shirts on in the summer, trying to get their school ready for the next year. It's a hard pill to swallow when the average income in our Connecticut River Valley, 2-person income is 63 grand a year. So we need to take that into consideration moving forward. These are already locked in, but we need to look at how we pay our executives. And I know that's not our decision, but we certainly are the money people, how we pay executives. I come from that world. Sometimes it's, hey, you don't get the golden parachute. Specifically with the communities we come from. And we know that we're overwhelmed with needy.
They work hard.
Yeah. Who? Yes, I'm not saying.
I know, I just wanted to put that in conjunction with,
I know,
That's all I'm-
because you love the heart emoji.
I love it all.
I know you love the heart emoji, but we're the ones that need to ask and broach the tough questions, and
I
nobody does
absolutely
in the past. They just push it down. And then the taxpayers and all of our friends grumble as the tax bill comes out and they don't see what the benefit, and then they wonder. So we have to ask these questions. We have to put these things out. So.
Alyssa, before you speak, Jennifer had her hand up.
Brought the information to our last meeting on the Saturday we worked. And from the Department of Education website in New Hampshire, the decrease since since I think 2000 in the population students is 35%. The increase in budget adjusted for inflation is 110%, so more than doubled with 1/3 of the students gone. Okay, so 2/3 of the students, more than 2x of the budget. So that to me puts it in a little more perspective. And I think Governor Sununu had signed it's a House bill, I forget the number, I'm not online, so I couldn't look it up, that starting this year, we will have to show graphs and post graphs of the inflation adjusted change in administration and cost per student. And there's one more graph that's going to be required. I think it's HB 1925 or something like that. I forget. But it's going to be more transparent, I think, to show people. I know a lot of people don't come to the school board meetings, so they're not involved. And once a year, we all get an earful at the deliberative session for what's going on. And maybe that will help, but it might cause more discontent than what we have now. So just as a a warning, there is a big discrepancy in the number of students and the cost, the inflation adjusted cost.
It's always a difficult part of the conversation because there's a lot of fixed costs. Regardless of whether you have one student or 20 students.
That's right, to a
That's-
certain extent, it's just like, I think one of the responses to my question about decreasing the students was, well, if you lose 2 kids in second grade, that doesn't mean you eliminate a teacher. Well, that's obvious to me, okay? But a third of the student population is gone.
But I think
And, you know,
we tried to do last year was, or the year before. We tried to figure out what the optimum class size configuration should be.
mhm,
And I think that's one recommendation that this committee can make, is that a serious look. Be taking a class size versus teacher count, and can classes be combined in different ways. And I'm not an expert in any of this, so I'll just leave it as a suggestion out there. But I think that's what schools in general have to come to grips with.
right, and that's when you start talking about Sarah Porter and Blanchard.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't reconcile those things. If there's no path, right?
Right, I mean, it's right, I mean, it is what it is. And it's the same thing for North Walpole School, if it's not reasonably, or it's not economically sound to keep the school open with that number of students, then it's not. It's- Right, your Hearts and Flowers should come out. I hate to say that, but Hearts and Flowers should come out.
Facts, not feelings.
Yeah, that, I have a hard time with that sometimes. So I want to, 2 things if I may. So the first to the whole inflation, 110% versus what we have for student counts. When they took that first one, I think it was what, 2011 is when they compared it to, perhaps 10 years ago or so. We also have to recognize that not only are things more expensive now and we have fewer students, but there's different expectations in the schools. Like we have different technology that everybody's expected to have that we might not have had in 2005. Like in 2005, we might have been talking about, dry erase markers versus smart boards. Like they're not even in the same category and they're expensive. So that's worth remembering when we talk about these things. It doesn't take up the whole discrepancy and all of those things, but we are in an entirely different world, and I want to make sure that that is remembered. So, but I also want to tell everybody here, as you're talking about budget lines and things like that, that the school board actually intends to take up many of the same topics that you're talking about here. Administrative salaries, vacancy management, positions in general. So I want you to know that we do hear these conversations as well. Both Jamie and myself bring them back. We have these conversations. So we're looking at the same things that you are and to be working in the same direction. So I just wanted to make sure I shared that with you all.
It would be, I think the board be hard pressed. It's all about the 80%, right? 75%. I don't know what it is now. If it's 20% of discretionary spending and 80% salaries and benefits in New Hampshire retirement. That's where it's all at, right? We can spend 10 months looking at that 20% and not get anywhere with it.
Right.
So that's in every nonprofit that I've run. I got the same problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because things have changed. Technology, that budget certainly can be streamlined. But you're right, they have changed. And in that, I think also our district needs to amend it perhaps a little bit. And the board and the budget committee have to be even more collaborative and use our expertise with with asking the tough questions that sometimes the board doesn't like to ask. Not that some of you don't, but working where we have the directive to look and try to dig by law, at all of the numbers and figure it out. To be able to help the board and help our district, it has to be more collaborative, even more so, and I think we've been doing a relatively better job. You know, and I think that our district has to do that, you know, so, and I've heard you express that before, so.
Thank you. Do you all feel like every summer we have a board retreat where we talk about our goals, things like that? Do you think it would be worth it to have a school board / budget committee retreat where we dig into these things and set goals?
Do I get to eat some of that line item?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm the one who stirs the pot. I want that platter that's in that budget.
Just give me your order, yeah.
No,
I think that anything we can do to facilitate the budget being formed much earlier.
Yes,
And because this is the second time I've filled in on the budget committee. And we continue, and I know there are interim directors and there's COVID and there are all sorts of things going on, or superintendents, I'm sorry. But we have to get this done soon. Having answers, even though I know it's a holiday and everything, but we just said that the administrators don't get a lot of time off. Getting something a half an hour and a half before a meeting when it's 1,700 lines or something, it doesn't work. It makes everyone frustrated. You know, we're charged with taking pieces of it and going through the line items and everything. And you know, some of us, all of us, work very hard and spend a lot of time going through it. And you know, hours before the next meeting, here's version 2, or here are some holes that weren't filled in. And so we can't even get a handle on that. And we need to look at it from a different altitude, I think, because we're not going to go through and tell you to spend $50 on this and not on this. It needs to be a different perspective that we bring to it, but there has to be the discussion much earlier on. And I think what Alyssa just suggested would help. And maybe before the 30th of June turns into the 1st of July, or whatever that change in classification date was, to get us on board and working on it so that we don't have to be frustrated, neither side. We don't have to be contentious. We can't predict the future. None of us can, but we can have the discussions and ask the questions that give you plenty of time. And now with Lori here, you know, she's done a great job with what she's had to deal with.
Based on
But it's
what we
still,
heard, she will be here on July 1st,
that's right.
right? That's what we're talking
Yeah.
about. You will be here on July 1st.
I won't, no, I won't.
No,
Yeah, not Lori.
no, I'm talking about.
Not Lori, I'm sorry. Deb, she's not gonna be here.
Right.
My mistake.
You just gave me
No,
a
keep
hard
trying,
time
but-
saying that Lori wasn't gonna be here on July 1st.
Well,
Yeah, so I vote yes, we should get together.
Yeah,
before-
I do too. I think it's a great, yeah.
I'm gonna put it in my calendar right now.
We could even buy our own lunch. I don't know.
I don't care.
Go ahead.
I'll buy Chris's lunch.
Believe me, I hear your frustration loud and clear. I've already had conversations with, the business, office as well as principals, and we've already have things on the calendar for the spring for next year's budget. To give you an example, one of the first days I was here, which was October, they were working on the stipend matrix with all best intentions. The stipend matrix, working on it in October, it's so complex and you have to gather so much information. We still brought something forward. However, we already have a March, the assistant principal at the high school is very interested in it, has already done a bunch of research. So I'm gonna work with him and then we'll bring it in March so that the stipend matrix is done in April. not October. I totally would agree with you. We have to push things back. We have to do the staffing that you're talking about, where we sit, we roll the numbers up, and we have hard discussions about, do we need to combine classes and reduce a teacher? What do we need to do? Because you're exactly right. Population is shrinking, and the public expects us to take a fine tooth comb to staff. So that, believe me, I hear you, and it's nobody's fault at this point. It just got behind the 8 ball, and now we're gonna catch it up. So I'm very confident in putting procedures and processes together so this doesn't happen again. Because it wasn't okay. We all know that. Lori would be the first one to tell you that it wasn't okay.
She has, I feel like she has said to us
Yeah.
before that and even the changes to know some, like, the information that we received was when we got the binder, after it was all filled in, like there's good foundation, skeletal foundation, what we had before.
I think I might add to that, and I'm sorry, I'm guessing you are our new superintendent,
I'm the interim.
the interim.
Yes, Deb Manso.
This is Chris Balding.
Well, Well, your answers are, your statements are a breath of fresh air. Someone actually thinking that we might need to have that conversation about reducing teacher positions if necessary.
Yeah.
Some of the principals, we all know people in here, but some of the principals, by the time the school year, this will end, they already have their actuals and already kind of 90% know what their budget should be by May.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I'm gonna have $20,000, $30,000 under. I already know, I can't even spend that. They already know. So it's always kind of been a little bit like, how come we can't get any of the stuff until October? You know, or that, it just, so it would be wonderful if we could get information earlier.
And but what I'm doing is putting a book together for whoever the new superintendent is. And that, what you're saying about meeting together, I think also we could have discussions, and I haven't even, this just came to me and I haven't even talked to Alyssa about it, but one of the options might be that if we did staffing, because you're right, it's Steve, it's 80%, 82% of the budget. But we need to have a really close look at it. So we could actually do staffing like in the summer, because we can roll our numbers up. And then possibly just have a budget meeting and a board and budget meeting where that's all we talk about is Corey from Charlestown presents that these are the number of kids in a classroom. This is what the number of teachers she's going to need for next year. So you have an understanding. We've already done it. The board has an understanding. Will it change? It's still possible a little bit, but it would, chunking it to have focused discussions about particular parts of the budget might also relieve that feeling of this huge thing being given to you, and now you have to go back in and take it apart, if that makes sense.
Is there a new strategic plan developed yet? Okay,
That is also in the process.
Yeah.
okay, so all you have to do is look at the last paragraph of the existing strategic plan. And that's everything that's been said, that the school board should have been looking at since 2018. I think it's 2018, I might be wrong, might even be older than that.
I think it's 2016 to 2021.
But anyway, the last paragraph talks about evaluating this classroom sizes with the student population, talks about closing the schools that are not being economically, it's all there. And it just has never been acted on.
Right.
And that's where I think what we're just saying is that it's time to act on what we've already agreed to, whatever is going on.
Jennifer, your hand was up first.
I have a lot of confidence in the principles that we have. And I really believe that some of this is just cultural, that people feel for whatever reason that they, without a superintendent, they can't do anything. They have to wait until the next person comes. And there's been so many changes in the last few years. Maybe we should just expect the changes to continue to occur and just say, look, the principals know what you're doing. Pull together your budgets. I know there would be some steering of the ship from on high when things fall apart, but at least it wouldn't delay everything and everyone to the last minute. Because you just can't operate like this.
Right.
It's good. It's been a couple of years, but when we did reduce staffing a few years ago, and we Charlestown finally got on board and closed North Charlestown. But it was kind of hard. We did come to an agreement. Now we know square footage per student, pupil per classroom. I know in state of New Hampshire, you can have up to 30, depending on the size of the class, or if it's a grandfathered classroom type of things. And I think those numbers, and no one wants to put a number to it. But we know primary schools, the littles, 30s. I was used when I was in school, 78, right? Well, I had 29 kids in my class. I don't know how they did it. We were better behaved, I think, much better. I'll just leave that alone. Behavior was much better back then. Oh, yeah. But.
I won't tell you how old I was.
Yeah, I know, Amanda, you keep reminding me. So, if we could come up with some reasonable policy that the littles, we know if 20 first, second grade class should be max, and if we had at least the median number, and we could say, if it's below 15, we gotta think of combining. If it's above 25, we gotta think of hiring somebody. Nobody wants to play with that, nobody. And as an engineer, I like the numbers, and we just, we do. We always know at 14, maybe we don't, maybe that particular class, depending on the school board and the principal and the superintendent, got some kids that are extra school. We can't reduce staffing now, maybe next year, but we can't. Because we need that honest conversation, but it helps at least from a budgetary to put a budget. We have this many kids, we're gonna reduce staff this year. And I have also heard from administrators that say, well, we don't want to reduce this year and then, have to hire next year. I'm not sure how to answer that because I know in the engineering world, they get rid of me and hire someone next year. But maybe that's not what we do. I'm just saying we have to have that conversation as well. Because we are playing the crystal ball on numbers. Kids are nomadic, or families used to be more so. It seems not so much now, but the last couple of years. But it's fairly known, at least here, we call it the triangle. Stevens, Springfield, Bells Falls, Charlestown, and districts wise, these families moving around. But we can come in within a percentage all the time. And then it's same at the middle school level, 25, the median, so we should have, I would like numbers as a budget person, so that we don't have to constantly, and that's one of the hardest things, is to get the numbers of students projected or otherwise versus teachers, and I'm not sure why that is, but if we got them, it would be better. But if everybody agreed on what those numbers should be district wise, just so we have an understanding of the budget next time. How many?
I actually believe our policy is 24, 24, and 25 or over. I can't get it to load right now, but that's what's stuck in my brain.
But here's my point. Is that appropriate for first to second grade for 25? I'm gonna say no.
That's not our role.
No, I know I'm talking to this wonderful young individual here a little bit as well, but saying if we had those numbers, we could then justify which works to the budget. That I don't disagree with you, Vice President Chafee.
Chair.
Oh, yeah. But that would help budget wise, if those numbers could be. And I definitely, as a taxpayer, would like to see them lower on the lower levels.
I think if you go to section 30 in that book, you're going to see the projections for how many students are in each classroom in each
Yes,
building.
yes,
And so
I
that-
did see that.
You can cross that with how many teachers we have in each of those.
Here's the thing, Alyssa, yes. But when did we get this book? You know, what, a month ago, 2 months ago, month and a half
We
ago,
had
2 months ago?
a horse soccer season.
It would be-
Before soccer season.
I'm just
I
saying,
brought
I
it to
think
my
the number,
banquet.
I think the projections can come earlier is what I'm thinking.
I hear you. I'm just telling you that
Yes,
this is cumbersome and sometimes we don't get to the very back of it, but it is here. And if you want and have an hour, you know, you
Okay.
can find some of that.
in section 30.
You don't have a section 30?
No. My section 30 is blank.
I will make you a copy.
But, okay,
all right,
so coming into our 7:30 now, and so we've been here for an hour and a half. It's fine, we can stay as long as we need to. But, getting ready for our meeting with the board next Wednesday. Right now, we have two different, numbers, I guess that's what I'll say, or ideas floating around. We have the 300,000 vacancy management reduction, which results in 34,963,849, which obviously we know does not include the non-union staff number. And the other one is the $600,000 reduction, which is the $500,000 for vacancy management and then $100,000 across the board, which brings the budget to 34,663,849. Which also does not include,
Germany at 100,000. Oh, no.
For the
grades.
so that, that does not include the, non-union staff number.
They are staff, the support staff is the contract.
No, I mean, non-unionized staff. Sorry,
They were.
they are unionized? No, I thought
Are you
they,
talking about the administrators?
no,
You're talking about the support staff?
Yes.
Is a union.
they have, okay,
It's a
sorry,
union contract that we just negotiated that will be done.
got it. So there
And
are
you'll
two
know that
unions.
number?
There's a teacher union and a non,
And a support staff.
and a support staff. union. Got it.
And you'll have those numbers.
We'll have them on Monday.
Okay, so
Do we-
this is without them.
Know what the number was going into negotiation?
I mean, like,
So, like, how much did it add to the budget before we negotiated whatever the new rate was?
that is in here, like their regular longevity and things like that. So, are you asking what we negotiated?
No, because you can't tell me that because it hasn't gone to the board.
So their existing salaries are in the budget.
So
version
If,
two.
if it doesn't pass, what's in here is going forward.
Okay, so that's what I was clarifying.
So there'll be a number.
So there will be a smaller number than what I was anticipating presented on Monday to your board meeting from what you guys just negotiated.
On Monday, I think you'll have the incremental change to the budget.
Right.
Right, because and we'll talk about those warrant articles now.
And that would be.
Yeah,
okay.
that'll be the incremental, I think it's 3
Correct,
years,
3
right?
years.
Yeah. And the incremental change to the budget. I think if you wanted to look, we went back to 3 years ago, school board report. School report, we should be able to see what it was.
Okay.
at the
Okay.
beginning. And figure
Probably
out
haven't.
where it is, but
But that answered my question. So it's not there, whatever their salaries are right now is in this number. So, okay. Good.
it's the incremental change.
So they're only gonna add, so these two numbers that we have floating out there, we were only adding the incremental change. Whatever that is.
If I may, Steve, I have the 2022 annual report here. Is that what you're referencing?
Be in there, right, with the,
Correct. At that time, this agreement funds an average wage increase of 6.03%, estimated budget impact of 282,960.
it's gonna be something less than that. Right? I don't think you're another 6%. I hope not, anyway. I hope we didn't give that up, but anyway, yeah, all right, thanks, Gabe. I like the number of 34 million, but that's just me.
Yeah.
So for a total of 1.2.
So,
Needle pulling thread?
so
Well,
you just said 34 million, Steve?
I'd probably go back and look at it again, but nice round numbers make me comfortable.
Yeah,
But I think we're at, what, 34,000,006 something?
yeah, we're at 34.6, almost 34.7 with
Yeah,
the
so-
600,000.
We get to 34,500, I think we're doing okay.
Okay. Get to 34.5 and then add in the incremental,
No, it's after the incremental.
34.5 after
After
incremental.
the incremental.
Chris,
So you're looking at cutting another 3 to 4.
So.
Yeah.
Vacancy management, 500, right?
Yep, that's one of them.
Schools, 100.
Yep,
Painter,
Let's say the vacancy management,
that's out of vacancy management, the painting position,
you take it out.
money.
Right, take the money out.
Okay, oh, so you're including that in.
Yeah, in money.
That's not in addition to.
No.
Okay. Administrative reduction,
I think that's something we gotta talk about.
we definitely
Right,
should.
whether- My understanding was 4% put in the budget. I think that's high.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what the impact would be, taking 1 or 2% out of that, or 1% out of that.
Well, it's
I don't know what the impact will be. But I think it was 100,000.
100 grand.
it's like, yeah,
No, 100,000, what's 1%? Or what's 3% of? It went up by $100,000.
Right,
I think that's what was in there.
but the increase was 4%,
Right,
but
but
the,
I'd make that 3%.
Reed. You're gonna negotiate me? What's COLA, right? It's 2.5.
But that's a government.
And we've been
call.
I know, but we've been generous in the past. So why not 1.5? Does anybody else have it? Are we negotiating down further? Who? What did you say? 1? Yes.
I did not.
Oh,
Don't you put words in my mouth, Mr. Spalding.
I don't know. I'm giving workers 5%, so.
Yes. So, yeah, I do think a reduction is something we want to talk about. And I'm pulling up the email right now, and it says that, no, I can't see it, works.
96,510.
yes.
I was remembering that. It came from-
And that was the 4, that represents the 4% increase.
Correct.
Right.
So,
How bad are the warrant articles gonna be?
There aren't a lot.
No.
There's the normal capital reserve request, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I think.
so if we want to get, if you want to get to 34.5 after the incremental. And we are assuming that the incremental, that 6% incremental was almost 300,000. Then. We need to cut another, what, 700?
That's, that incremental can't be right. That's way too high.
Okay.
Because we only, back in 22, it was only
It was
196,000 or something like that. What was that number, Gabe?
That was for the 3-year contract, right?
Oh, maybe I misheard.
What's the third year worth?
Information on warrant number 2. this article will fund a 3-year labor contract between the school board and the Fall Mountain Educational Support Staff Association. This agreement funds an average wage increase of 6.03%. The estimated budget impact is 282,960.
At 6 point something%, so it's gotta be something less.
Is that biannual?
And
For
you mean
them,
how often we negotiate it?
for them, for support staff?
We negotiate every 3 years.
So that's 6% over 3 years?
Yes,
And it's so it could be.
so 280, all right. So 282,
Alright, so 282, you've got another 300,000,
right? So
that brings it 30, that brings it over 36 million. Budget, is that right? Trying to do too much in my head that late at night.
Well, 4,200,000 to keep it at
Yeah,
34 and a half.
So then, if we're doing that math, then we need to, like, we're looking for another 500,000. To keep it at 34.5-ish.
you have to just keep looking between now and Wednesday, next week. Come up with what's realistic. The worst thing you can do is be arbitrary, like it happened a couple of years ago, before we came on board. Where they said cut $1 million or whatever the number was out of the budget,
Figure it out, right? No, we can, and we've never done it.
and we haven't done it.
We've
So I
never done it.
want to stick with that.
That's great.
So,
I appreciate that because in all honesty, it's not outside the realm of what's going on in a lot of school districts where somebody comes in and deliberative and says, change their number and they cut 2 or 3, we have the 10% change. Somebody could come in and say, take 3.5 million out. And the deliberative votes for it. That's what we have to do. So,
10%, right?
yeah, that's 3.5 million.
Oh, that's right.
It's a lot.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I appreciate the work you're all doing. So hopefully we don't end up in that
Yeah.
scenario.
Like I said,
Well,
it may not be realistic.
but the default is always last year's voted in.
Which will also have that on the day.
With the contracts.
Right.
Okay, so then, Michael, I want to make sure you're good. Haven't passed you over or anything.
No, you haven't passed me over. I like what Christopher has to say. I'm on the cut 3.5 million, but I'm willing to listen to reasons.
Okay. So. Just to recap, we have 2 different avenues right now. First one was 300,000 in vacancy management. The second one was 600,000, 500,000 for vacancy management and 100,000 across the board. Meaning everybody look at your individual school budgets and figure out where it can all come from. And there's an idea out on the table that if we could get to 34.5 after the incremental increase, which we know that 3 years ago was 6% at 282, then we need to cut, we're looking for another 500,000. So that's where we are. We can either discuss it now, or we can take it home, look at it. We also have questions 9, 10, 11, and 12. Which 10 was with respect to the 730 lines, these amounts were lowered and moved back to the supply lines, the 610s and 611s. Can you please supply the dollar amount of what got moved for each set of lines? That was the supplies we were questioning. We were a little confused on. 11 is have all of the service contract lines increase because of a new contract, perhaps a copier contract. And then 12 was, can you please provide a crosswalk of all the line items that have been zeroed out? So we can talk about it more now, or we can take it home. All of us are obviously welcome to attend the board meeting on Monday when they talk about this, and then otherwise we can reconvene on next Wednesday.
That's when we're presenting to the school board, right? Or is
That's
that
what we were with the school board, and we walk out with a bottom line, with a number at that meeting.
because the public session is the 15th.
The hearing is the 15th and deliberative is,
I would say
Yeah,
February.
Chris, you have that calendar right now.
What do you need, Dan?
Fifth or sixth.
Is it Wednesday or Thursday?
The
I think it's a
deliberative.
Wednesday.
okay, so the deliberative is February 5th or 6th, and the hearing, which we always have, or in the past we've had in the cafeteria, is on the 15th. Where we present the budget.
So I just have one question for,
The difficulty of having the setting a number tonight
Yeah,
is we don't have all the information yet.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't think we
It's
can
only
say,
gonna happen on Monday night. Right?
Yeah.
So that leaves us only Tuesday to come up with a number. Maybe do a Zoom meeting on Tuesday. I can't.
my question for clarification was what, again, is 6% over 3 years was 300,000 a year,
no, total.
so it's only 100,000 to get us to that amount. Not,
We're talking staffing, and I'm not the
The
expert.
incremental change to the budget, let's call it 150,000. I don't know if that's a good number or bad number, but it's probably pretty close.
but that's over 3 years.
No, that's the first year incremental change.
So it's 3 years at 6% each, so conglomerate is 18%, right? Is that how that works? For the,
No. I don't believe so.
The total cost of the contract was $282,000 and $283,000.
For 3 years.
I thought Gabe was saying that the final year was 283,000.
Is that right, Gabe? The final year was 282?
What was the total cost of the 3 years of that support staff contract?
It does not state it in those terms. How it reads is the estimated budget impact is 282,960. I take that to mean the budget impact on this year as proposed budget.
Okay,
so 6% a year.
So 6% was 300,000. For
It
the
is,
year.
it is unclear. It doesn't say either way. But
So that's $500,000 in support staff. 6%.
Again, it's almost $1 million over 3 years. If that will go in the following one. No, it's off. Yeah, we don't get to.
So do we need of that from,
Well, will we get that Monday, the clarification? I mean, if we're currently spending 500,000 a year on support staff and the negotiated increase for 3 years is 6%, that's just 2% a year. You know, that's compounded, but still, that would only be 100,000. Anyway, I think Monday at the board meeting, because we may not have to go, you know, to get to 34.5 million. With the increase, doesn't mean necessarily another 500,000.
I don't think you know.
No, we don't until Monday.
Monday, you don't know what the full budget is.
Gabriel,
There's a lot of questions to be answered.
Yeah,
yes, I'm here.
yes,
you're fading.
so just saying, it's a 3-year contract, 6% each year,
It
that's
does not.
that's not what it says.
but it's at least 6% for 1 year.
I will read it again.
I know, it's confusing, that language, it's not written well.
It's, it's not clear.
Right.
This article will fund a 3-year labor contract between the school board and the Fall Mountain Educational Support Staff Association. This agreement funds an average wage increase of 6.03% for all members of the association, plus related benefits cost. The estimated budget impact is $282,960. I expect we can ask for clarification on this. None of us here
Yes.
understands what it means. So let's ask for
Right.
clarification and get the answer for us, maybe by email.
Divided by 3 or multiplied.
I think
Right.
if they can get into us tomorrow, it's simple. Without too much of an analysis, right? Somebody should know pretty close.
Well, we are going to know that information on Monday when the new budget, when the new contract comes out. So
Yeah.
whether what happened in 22 was one way or another, it really has no bearing on this conversation, does it?
Gives you a thumb to look at, gives you something to look at.
A couple days in advance, yes.
That's all. It's a barometer. It's a bookmark that we can kind of
Okay.
figure in.
If Alyssa and Deb are understanding the question, can that be explained Monday when the next set of information comes out so we can understand clearly? And then we'll know better by the time we meet on Wednesday, or if Steve's request to meet on Tuesday were to come to fruition? Or do we need an answer tomorrow?
We can get an answer. I'm talking about the old data, not the new data, because I realize the board hasn't voted on the contract yet. The old data, that's 3-year number or is that a 1-year number?
Okay, so we want clarification for both.
If that's possible.
Is it just for clarity's sake? Can someone email me the questions so I'm exactly sure what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Cause I think I know, but I don't wanna
Yeah.
go down the wrong road.
Yeah,
Can you send that warrant article?
not until they look at it.
No, I'm asking Gabe, the one he just read.
I can take a screenshot and send it. I can take a screenshot and send it via email.
Yeah,
Sure,
and then
that
the
would be
question
great.
is that value, that dollar amount impact for 1 year or all 3 years?
Yeah, okay.
That'll give us some number to plug into the
Right.
spreadsheet that says this is the close enough incremental change.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else they want to discuss tonight? The only thing I want to make or bring up, make clarity, whatever, have clarity on, is that on Monday, we can go to the board meeting, but we are not active participants in the meeting. It's not our meeting. Wednesday, we are active participants. It's a joint meeting. Okay? So just know that.
So we can't gather and talk during the board.
That's
meeting.
correct. because
We can't.
We don't want to violate no parking lot meeting, right? Yes,
Amanda, so, again, if we're looking for an additional 500.
potentially.
Potentially.
We want, depending on the answers to the questions, the last 3 questions that are still outstanding from the email. And if you want, I mean, I'm not telling anybody what they have to do, but if the idea is to come to 34.5 after the incremental, that's kind of what we've kind of sketched
Okay.
out what we're looking for. Yes, Stephanie.
So I was telling Steve earlier, unfortunately, I have to have emergency eye surgery on Tuesday. So I will be at the board meeting on Monday. I think more importantly, all the administrators are gathering with Lori to go through the presentation, and I'm gonna take your suggestions of things to them on Monday. Because I know that we expect also that the board is taking a very close look and will come to us as well and say, we feel that you need to take another look here or another look here. So I'm gonna try to get ahead of that a little bit, but I really want to be here, but I just can't be. And I don't want to not be present and not have you understand why. Okay?
Good luck.
Do you need one? Cause I have a spare.
Oh, I'll take it. And I'll give you a donut for that too.
What time is the board meeting on Monday?
5:30.
Oh, 5:30, okay, thank you.
Here.
Gabe, is there anything else that you want to mention or discuss?
Nothing on my agenda.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion
Move.
made by Jennifer. Go ahead, Gabe.
Wait, two motions, just.
Motion by Jennifer to adjourn, seconded by Chris. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. And that'll need to be a roll call vote because I am on Zoom. So, Chris,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Amanda,
Aye.
Melissa,
Bye.
Gabe, aye. All right. Thank you all for your time.